Welcome to Recently Logged, where this week, spooky season started early.
We're back.
Ooh.
A dinosaur story. I make that joke every time. I'm just a broken record.
We
of
have
my
to
jokes.
stop. We have to stop going on a hiatus so that we don't keep repeating all of our lame jokes about us returning.
Yeah, like every
from
time.
our
Every time I come
hiatus,
back,
you know,
it's like I get into the studio, and we start. You say like we're recently logged.
it's time to do
and
something lame.
And I'm Monsters Incorporated. Like it just comes to mind. It's second nature. We've been doing the podcast for too long.
Learned behavior.
Yeah,
I see. But yes, here we are. My name is Robbie.
and I'm Micah.
And I'm recovering from being sick as well, which is why I sound nasally.
Wear masks in public places,
Yes,
guys.
yes.
COVID's spiking up again.
Back on the move, much like our podcast, only our podcast is a bit less damaging.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
But yeah, we're back. We were gone for 2 weeks, mainly because of Dragon Con.
Dragon
Shout out
Con.
to Dragon Con. If
Shout
you were
out
at
Dragon
Dragon
Con.
Con, I was there.
We gotta keep saying Dragon Con. Over
Yeah, so Dragon Con was pretty cool. But yeah, we didn't like do much like movie watching at Dragon Con.
No.
And we were also there on Monday and like got back and way too tired.
Yeah, no, we would have been a wreck if we tried to record an episode like directly after we got back from Dragon Con. It would not have been pretty.
Yeah, and the other one was because we were getting ready for Dragon Con.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was a whole ordeal. But Dragon Con was pretty great, and now we're back doing a What We Watched episode, which for those of you who do not know is a fun little episode what we do in the shadows. That we do whenever we don't record episodes for a while. And we just talk about everything we've seen since our last episode, give a little bit more in-depth than the What We Watched segments, which you may be familiar with.
Yeah.
And just give ratings, thoughts, have a good time.
Wow. We say Party Rock is in the house tonight and everybody's going to have a good time. You can quote us on that.
Yeah, you can quote us. We're the first ones to say that.
Yes.
But yeah, the reason we had our little intro being that way is we watched a lot of horror movies.
Yeah.
For some reason.
A surprising amount of horror movies for it not being like fall yet. It's still summer.
I think 3 of the movies I watched since our last episode. So in 2 weeks, I watched 3 movies that weren't horror movies.
But yeah, we're going to talk about them. Hopefully you like horror movies.
Who knows? Maybe you hate them.
But yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it.
Let's. All right, so as the thumbnail or cover, depending on what you're looking at this on, depicts, we are starting on August 22nd and moving to September 12th, which was like today.
Well, it is also the name of the episode. It's just the dates.
Oh,
like
well,
that's literally the name.
There's almost no way you couldn't know when we were starting. But yeah, we're starting on the 22nd of August.
Yeah.
And I think I'm starting us off.
Yeah, you
which
are.
is unfortunate because what I watched on August 22nd is not one I would suggest to anyone.
Well,
but it was suggested to me.
I was about to say, someone recommended it to you, so you felt obligated to watch it.
Well, no, specifically, I did it for my YouTube channel because there was a thing on Twitter that was like, oh, you could do, it was the beginning of this year that was like, you could share this around, get people to suggest a movie for each month of the year, and then you can watch all of those. And that's really all it was supposed to be. But I was like, what if I took that and milked it for content? And I wanted to do a video ranking all of those movies that were suggested to me. At the end of the year, which I'm still planning on doing, and this just so happened to be one of them, but it was one that was suggested to me by someone I did not know.
Big red flag there, Mike. Yeah, never talk to strangers.
Never talk to strangers. But it was The Forbidden Door, which is a 2009 Indonesian movie,
which is pretty cool,
from director Joko Anwar, I think is probably how you would say his name. Forgive the mispronunciation if that's incorrect. But he's a rather well-known Indonesian horror director, arguably the biggest Indonesian horror director. And this was his first feature-length film.
His debut.
So that's kind of cool. Like, I was excited for it. It looks cool. The poster, I was like, oh, that looks interesting. Like, that looks like it's gonna be something. And it was something.
It was something. Micah's like, wow, look, a movie. That looks like a movie. It was a movie.
And like it's hard to talk about. It really is, because for parts of it I really liked it. Like, there are things that are definitely really promising about it. I actually liked the main actor. Oh man, I'm gonna butcher all these names. Fatri Albar, I think is how you say his name. I really enjoyed his performance. He's, I think, really fun and really gets you kind of sympathetic to this kind of sleazy guy from the way that he's been treated by all the people around him. I think it sets up an interesting mystery. I think when it feels like it's gonna go somewhere, its riffs on stuff like Videodrome and stuff are pretty cool, because it very definitely is wearing like David Lynch and Cronenberg on its sleeve.
The two Davids, of course.
The two Davids. That's what it's trying to go for, but at the end of the day, everything feels very amateur about the movie. It's low budget. Most of the performances aren't that great. The audio's not that great. The lighting's not that great. Like, it's a very amateur film for the most part. But at times it really shines through. The dinner scene towards the end is like really, really awesome, and I was like really kind of like, okay, it was leading to something.
Mike's
really
like, I'm
cool.
on board now. Okay.
But then, spoilers for The Forbidden Door. I wouldn't suggest you go and watch this movie. It's got some rather coarse content in it as well. Hence Videodrome being a big influence.
Yeah.
But the end of the movie, it's revealed that it was all fake, that he is in an insane asylum, and it was all in his head, and all of the people you saw throughout the rest of the movie were his caretakers, and then it just ends.
It's like it's like the student's first short story, and then it was all a dream.
Like, I didn't expect it. It surprised me. I didn't know movies actually tried to do that ending, and it did, and it made me so mad, because it makes literally everything else. The big writing problem with that style. It makes everything else about the movie practically meaningless.
Yeah, it always feels like it's cheapening a lot of the imagery and stuff that it uses.
To be fair to the movie, there's a lot of really striking imagery, and a lot of it's dark stuff. It's a very dark movie on the whole. One of the more dark movies I personally have seen. There's some messed up stuff in the movie, and it uses that to pretty good effect when it can. It's got some really strong imagery used to convey the story and convey themes. And then it's just like, oh, but what if that was all in his head? Yeah,
that'll make the audience happy.
And yeah, it's it kind of,
not that you have to write your movie to make the audience
but at
happy,
the end of the day, it just kind of disappointingly sucked, and is also coarse enough and like messed up enough that why would you suggest that to someone? Someone you don't know? That's like, again, we had just watched Old Boy, if you listen to the last podcast episode, which is also kind of a messed up movie. And
very messed up
again,
movie.
when I watched it, I was like, that's like saying to somebody, like, without any context, like they've never seen anything.
You don't know
Old
what kind
Boy.
of movies they
You don't
watch.
know what kind of movies they watch. And you're just like, you should check out Old Boy.
Dude, Old Boy rocks. You should go watch it right now.
So,
I would not say that to someone I didn't know.
Exactly. And that's the kind of vibe, but also this movie is way worse than Old Boy, so it's unfortunate. But I gave it a 2.5 out of 5.
I did not give it anything. I didn't even give it the time of day.
I would not suggest checking it out ever.
Oh. But okay, fair enough. On the 22nd, I watched a little Jack Stober short film called Hot Dogs, and you should go watch it.
Jack Stober.
It's very good.
Jack
But
Stober.
that's all.
Didn't you watch it?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't gonna list every single one. I also watched.
We don't have that much.
I mean,
so
I also watched Work by Jack Stober. I was just honestly binging his shorts. So I mean, they were good. I still like them. I've seen them 100 times now, probably. But they're great. And then I watched The Impossible Truth, which is a Albert Brooks short film that he produced for season 1 of SNL. He produced 8 films for the first season of SNL. and it wasn't great. I'm not going to elaborate further. But yeah, those were the short films I watched. And then on the 24th, I watched a documentary about In Utero.
Hit Nirvana album.
The Nirvana album, their final album. I had been listening to it like nonstop, and I was like, I need to be able to log my music. So I watched the documentary, which is, I think the full title is like In Utero, a classic album under review or something like that, like In Utero under review. It's listed under a bunch of different stuff. But it's like a legacy documentary kind of thing, like charting the album's influences, part of Kurt Cobain's life, and like analyzing the album to a degree.
Yeah.
But it was produced by some British guys, and it was pretty cool. I liked it a lot. They seem to have some pretty knowledgeable like interviewees, and it gave me some new insight on In Utero. So I appreciated it. It wasn't like the greatest thing in the world. It's like syndicated TV documentary, but it was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm into Nirvana. They're like one of my favorite bands. So
They're an amazing band.
I was about to say, even just seeing some of the live performance footage that they have in it, it was a fun time. I'd recommend it if you like In Utero. Plus, 30th anniversary's coming up real soon. I'm listening to the new remaster that they're putting out. It's really good. But yeah,
not an In Utero remaster fan.
I gave In Utero, a classic album under review, a 3 out of 5. Would watch again. Good stuff.
All right. Then on the 25th, I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem. I went back out to the theater.
Yeah.
And I watched it with my girlfriend.
Whoa.
She had not seen it yet. She was really looking forward to it. Me and Robbie went and saw it back when it came out. She wasn't available to come with us.
She was unavailable.
So yeah, me and her went out and watched it. And it was still really fun to watch in theaters. I have pretty much the same kind of things to say about it that I said last time if you listen to that.
Yeah, I feel like my opinion really wouldn't change if I saw it again. Like it is what it is.
It nails the dynamics perfectly. I think it looks really unique and fun. I think it's got decently fun action. I know I've seen a lot of people actually criticize its action, and I get that. It doesn't take it as far. Like, it's not that much of an action movie.
No.
But I think even for the action that there is, and it's pretty fun, and it's got an Old Boy reference, which is funny.
I was about to say, you watched it like right after you watched Old Boy.
Exactly.
Which is pretty cool.
But no, it's definitely flawed in its writing. It's just got some weird pacing issues and a lot of shallow kind of, and then this happened.
Yeah.
And then this happened. And then the movie's over kind of thing going on. But I think the charm of this movie kind of sells it for me. I would watch this again in theaters, honestly.
Dude, I would pop Mutant Mayhem on any day of the week. Just, you need like a cozy film on a weeknight.
Yeah, the cast kills it. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It looks good. It feels good.
Yeah.
It's great. I really love it. I give it a 4 out of 5.
Very cool. On the 25th, I rewatched One Froggy Evening.
Yeah, well, technically, I joined you for this.
Yeah, you were there for that, dude. What? Yeah, One Froggy Evening, for the uninitiated. It is a Chuck Jones Looney Tunes production. I believe it's Looney Tunes. I always get it mixed up. I think Silly Symphony's a Disney thing.
Yeah, Silly Symphony. It's Looney Tunes.
Yeah, Looney Tunes.
Silly Symphony's Disney.
Yeah, One Froggy Evening, very iconic, kind of like a stylistic outlier amongst a lot of Looney Tunes, and it's very, very good. It's like my favorite animated short film because it's awesome.
It's funny.
It's literally like the funniest thing in the world, actually.
There's something about executing just one simple little bit this well. It's 7 minutes. It doesn't drag on. It is perfection.
It literally, I put my whole review was it's perfect. That was my review of it this time. I would stand by that. It's like such a like absolutely hilarious idea, and it's just executed like to the ninth degree. You know?
Yeah, like
It's
I can't
crazy.
think of any. Like I really
Like,
love.
I wouldn't change anything about it.
I really love the style the animation has
Dude.
going for it, like the character designs and the facial expressions.
Chuck Jones is like the best animation director of all time.
And the frog himself, like his physicality.
The physicality of everything
It's
is
so
insane.
crazy for something like this, like old and short, to be like so, I don't know, so lively and
It's
so memorable.
hilarious.
Is really like, I don't know, it holds up.
It holds up so hard. Like I said, it's like my favorite short film, probably.
It's so good.
Yeah, One Froggy Evening. Go watch it. I also watched The Hudsucker Proxy with my mom.
Whoa! Shout out to mom.
Shout out to mom. I had seen it one time before this, and it's one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies. If you're counting like Joel's solo direction stuff as Coen Brother movies.
Yeah, I mean, I technically do.
Ethan produced it. So.
Oh yeah, if Ethan's name's in the credits, that's most of them.
Yeah,
Ethan did not direct that many of the
I
Coen
know,
Brothers movies.
But yeah, this is one of my favorites of theirs. Jennifer Jason Leigh. You got Bruce Campbell. You got Jennifer Jason Leigh. You got Tim Robbins.
It's a really good movie. I didn't rewatch it with I think I was working or something.
Yeah. You got Paul Newman.
It's really good. It's
You got
such
Jennifer
a funny
Jason
movie.
Leigh.
I feel like it's super okay. So we're joking about how like out of season we technically are, but we're like slightly out of season with all these horror movies. The Hudsucker Proxy is like a New Year's movie.
Hudsucker is definitively a New Year's movie. Yes.
So you're way off in timeline.
I literally it's like so funny and awesome that I was like itching to rewatch it. It had been a while, and I was like, you know what? My parents haven't seen the Hudsucker
It's true, they hadn't seen it.
So I watched it with my parents, and it was just as good as the first time I watched it. I gave it a 5 out of 5.
Nice.
Very fun movie.
Very fun.
I also watched Piranha that day, and it was not as good. I'd only seen like 1 or 2 Joe Dante movies before, like Small Soldiers and Gremlins.
Yeah.
And I guess Matinee too.
Which Matinee's like the only really memorable one of those, I would say.
Gremlins is good. It's a good movie.
I never think about Gremlins ever.
I think about Gremlins.
I don't know how it became such a big classic.
I don't know. That's not the point, Mike. The point is, I watched Piranha, which is an earlier Dante movie. And it's just...
It's a Jaws ripoff.
It's a Jaws ripoff. Very explicitly. It owns that. And unfortunately, it's just not that fun. I feel like it has to be fun. I don't know. It feels a little long-winded. In its feeding scenes especially. Like, I don't know how they made piranhas, like, eating people so boring,
I could
honestly.
easily admit, like, that's one of the biggest problems with most shark movies that rip on Jaws, is that like it took a lot of effort and honestly kind of luck to make Jaws not boring in terms of like stuff like the shark animatronic not really working very well and stuff like that led so many of the feeding scenes to be really fast, short, you barely see what's happening, and it relies on the actual filmmaking around it to be really good. But most other shark movies and things that I have seen are just like, what if the shark ate someone in the ocean? That's pretty scary.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not really like a schlocky enough movie to be like that fun. Like, it's not fun for that reason.
Yeah.
And it's not really emotionally engaging enough to be like a gripping drama or anything. So I don't know. It teeters on being like a really charming low budget movie, but I just end up getting more bored with it than anything.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because it does have cool piranhas. It does have a stop motion mutant creature thing that walks around for like a scene. So that was cool. I don't know. I don't regret
that was
watching
in Piranha
it.
too.
No, it's in this one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's a little like dinosaur lizard thing that's walking around the facility. I don't know. It was weird. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend Piranha, but I don't like regret watching it or anything. It was fine. That's my consensus. I gave it a 2 out of 5. You watched something on the 26th.
Okay, yeah. So on the 26th, I watched Girl Interrupted, hit James Mangold movie. Mansgold?
I said Mansgold.
James Mangold movie. which is very interesting. Lots to think about with this one.
Much to think about.
I actually watched it though for another podcast that I was a guest on. It was 412 Connections, which is a podcast that a friend of ours does. The episode is not out yet. We were doing episodes for October, which, you know, she records way far ahead because she actually plans well. We don't do that.
We do not plan at all.
We record
really.
like the night before we put it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we recorded for October. We were doing episodes on kind of mental health and mental illnesses portrayals in horror and just in media in general.
I was about to say specifically horror? Or?
No. We're like, horror was a big talking point because hence October.
Yeah.
But just in general media. So, of course, this was on like every list of like, oh, it's a good depiction of mental illness. And, you know, there's a lot you can talk about in it. We'd get into it a lot more in the actual podcast, and I would suggest going and listening to that when it comes out, because I can't get into all of it here, or I'd spend like the entire podcast talking about it. But it being based on a true story and being set in a time like, you know, in the late 60s when so little was known on it, it's very difficult to kind of parse what is and isn't of the time, or just bad intentions from a lot of the filmmakers coming into it. And there are times where James Mangold's direction is definitely against what I think the film is effectively should be trying to go for and its messaging. A lot of times where he has almost thriller-esque flares and things that just don't gel with the kind of message it's going for, as well as being kind of a very inaccurate depiction of, especially for the 60s, how mental institutions were.
I was about to say, I could see Mangold's like kind of weird, like flashy almost direction giving this a strange vibe.
Yeah, everything's strange about it. Its actual depictions of the different mental illnesses that it does display in the movie is questionable at best. Oof, the sociopath thing is rough. So it's just a kind of muddled movie, but effectively it's a decent film. It does a good job at like actual film things. It's relatively well paced. It looks pretty good. The performances, which is what most people remember it for, are really good. It's got Winona Ryder, Angelina Jolie, Brittany Murphy.
Brittany Murphy.
I forget how to say her name. Clea Duvall, I think. Elizabeth Moss. Like it's got a good cast.
That's pretty cool.
And they work really, really well together. And it's got like a decent sense of pacing, as I said, and like that it's actually going somewhere with the story, and it arrives to that. And it's got a satisfying emotional ending. But its actual mental illness stuff is questionable at best. So again, like another weird one to talk about. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, but it's not one I'll probably ever go back to watch again.
Yeah, fair enough. On the 26th, I watched another Albert Brooks SNL digital short, as they are labeled. This one's called Sick. He was sick in bed. Albert Brooks, the man.
He's like, oh no, I'm sick.
And he had to fulfill his contract to make another film for Saturday Night Live. So he literally just put on a camera and he talks to it for like 6 minutes. And like a pizza delivery guy comes and he like chats him up for a second. It's like, it's kind of funny. I don't know. It's a very strange film. Because it's literally just a very sick man in bed. He's like zooming around the camera with a little remote. It's more charming than it is actually like enjoyable to consume. Yeah, you know. But like whatever, I don't know. I like it better than The Impossible Truth. So
yeah,
do with that what you will. But then on the 27th, I watched Piranha 2: The Spawning.
Ooh. James Cameron.
Yeah, this was actually like part of the reason I watched Joe Dante's Piranha, besides the fact that it was a summer movie and I was like, oh, I should watch it during the summer. It was partially motivated so that I could watch Piranha 2: The Spawning, which is a James Cameron directed movie. Which
it was like his first or second movie,
it was his debut.
Yeah, it was his
debut film. And I had never seen it before, and I like James Cameron a lot, if you couldn't tell from our Way of Water episode. So I watched The Spawning, and it was not better than Piranha, but more interesting than Piranha, I would say. I don't know. James Cameron, not too many of his fingerprints are on this, honestly. Which, you know, for it being the reason, I went into it for, like, looking for him, like, specifically his touch to the movie, and it's just not really there. Like, it's a whatever kind of schlocky horror movie with some cool gore and some fun fishes.
The flying fishes.
Dude, they can fly in this one. That's way cooler. The kills are way cooler in this one. Like, if... I don't know. I'm not going to recommend...
All I ever picture, Robbie, when you say this is the scene in Journey to the Center of the Earth when they're sailboating across
no, dude, it's nothing
the
like
ocean
that.
And these giant piranha flying fish start jumping out at them.
No, dude.
And Brendan Fraser has to, like, grab a stick and whack them.
You don't understand. These are way cooler because they can fly around like bats, like literal bats. They are like flying. They're not gliding. They are flying around. They're flapping their wings and flying.
But is Brendan Fraser there whacking them with a stick?
He is not. Instead, we get a very strange lineup of early 80s actors. It's a fairly low budget movie. And I don't know, it like literally outside of the gore, like there's not really anything all that interesting happening. It like tries to say something about relationships or family or something, but like, I don't know, it's really boring mostly. I don't know, it plays around with like sex as a theme a lot, but it doesn't really have that much to say about anything. I don't know. It just ends up being kind of boring too, which is kind of a shame. Again, more interesting to like pick apart than Piranha, just because there's a lot more subtext and it's a lot like louder and more blood splattery. So I had more fun with it, but also it's not like a better movie or anything. I also gave that one a 2 out of 5. Was not a fan of Piranha 2. And then also on the 27th, I watched James Cameron's like first short film that he ever made called Xenogenesis, and it is insane. You should go watch it right now if you can find it somewhere. I'm not going to say you should watch an illegal version of it, but I'm not going to say that I didn't do that.
Are you confessing to a crime?
I'm confessing to watching a YouTube video and then logging Xenogenesis on Letterboxd is what I'm confessing to. But yeah, it's got some crazy special effects. I cannot believe that like 2 film students made this. It's got like giant towering laser shooting robots and it looks pretty good, actually.
Well, dude, James Cameron is like the special effects man.
Yeah, dude, this is crazy. Like, put some water in this, like, put some water imagery in this, and it's literally like every James Cameron movie. It's got like the strong female lead. It's got giant mech fighting. It's got robots and lasers. It's awesome.
But like Robbie, also like again, James Cameron like literally wrote the book on modern VFX.
Yeah, no, I honestly just can't believe that like 2 film students made this. It looks pretty amazing by my standard. They made it in the late 70s. That's crazy. But yeah, Xenogenesis, it's cool. Kind of boring, like in practice, but like way impressive from a technical standpoint. So I liked it. Very good. I also watched, I watched so many short films. I watched Pixar's Spark Shorts, the only one that I hadn't seen already, Out.
Man, Robbie, that sounds a little suspicious.
I know.
That's the only one you hadn't seen.
I was like, why did I choose the most marginalized Spark Short for last? I was saving the best for last.
Okay, we'll let it pass.
It's cool to see that Disney has finally progressed past just turning people of color into animals. Now they're turning gay people into animals.
Finally.
We're seeing a real evolution from them. It's really heartwarming. I don't know. Out's fine. Like, I don't have that much to say about it.
I watched it back when it came out. I don't really remember it that well because, I don't know, most of the Spark Shorts I think are kind of forgettable.
Yeah, that honestly, outside of like Kit Bull, I honestly have like forgotten about most of them.
I have not thought about Kit Bull since I watched it.
I think about Kit Bull sometimes. I'm like, remember that guy? Remember that little guy? But yeah, Out, it stressed me out, if anything. But like it was fine. It has a cute premise. It's cute. It's whatever. I didn't get that much out of it, but like I don't have anything to say against it either. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I didn't rate it. I don't know why I was about to say a rating for it. Then I watched Un Chien Andalou, which is another short film by Louis Brunel, which he collaborated with Salvador Dali to write it. And it was cool. It's like, if you've studied film at all or surrealism in film at all, you've heard of it before.
Yep.
It does not feature a dog, as the title might imply it might, but it was very good. I wrote just a 2-word review that said, "Oh wow," when I watched it. But I wrote a little paragraph about why I liked it so much in the comments of my Letterboxd review. So you can go read that if you want to. It's really good. It uses imagery really well. So I liked it. Yeah.
Then on the 28th, finally, we went and watched something together. The first thing we watched together so far on the podcast.
We're half an hour in. We've only logged one thing together.
Yeah, we went out and saw the... I forget if it was for was it for an anniversary? I don't remember. No, I guess it wouldn't be. I don't think so. Anyway, we watched Coraline in theaters. They brought it back.
They brought Caroline back to the
Caroline back to theaters finally.
Yeah.
In fact, they brought it back previously, and we didn't have the opportunity to go see it. And then it got so much love and ticket purchases essentially that they brought it back for an encore screening, which we went and saw.
Yeah, man.
And, man, what a cool movie to see in theaters.
We have sung the praises of Henry Selick before, and we will do it again.
Well, okay, let's sung the praises of Henry Selick. Yeah. He's a very hit or miss director, I would say. Okay. I'm not in love with most of his work, but Coraline I am in love with. Dude, this movie is crazy.
Coraline.
I love this movie.
It's literally like the gold standard for stop motion if you're not going to pick Fantastic Mr. Fox.
On my YouTube channel, I actually made it was really randomly thrown together. I just I hadn't made a spooky season video, and I didn't have time to do anything, so I did an unscripted little rant about why Coraline is one of my favorites, if not my favorite, Halloween movie.
Yeah.
If I'm talking straight Halloween, what Halloween is boiled down to, this movie makes me think of it.
Plastic jack-o'-lanterns filled with candy. Micah's it's time for Coraline,
exactly,
baby.
Exactly. So that was fun, and it was really cool. This is just such a cool movie to see in theaters.
Dude, literally, it was the same thing with the Spirited Away, Ghibli Fest screening we went to. There are just so many small details in, even just beyond the image quality, the sound mix and everything that you just miss when you're at home.
Yeah, and even then, for something as, in-depth as Coraline, the more, you can see tiny little things that happen in it that you can just so easily miss. There's so much attention to detail put into small background things, a lot of stuff that is implied, and, the more you watch Coraline in general, and I've done some, because I was interested, I did some poking into, the book. I haven't read the book, but I did some poking into, the lore of Coraline, essentially. So kind of having some of that knowledge and having seen the movie so many times, a lot of the kind of seemingly weird pacing decisions work so much better the more you watch it, and especially when you can kind of pick apart the movie more on a big screen, it makes it just really feel cohesive.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was my 4th viewing of the movie, and I felt like I was watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
I don't know, its characters and its world are so well realized, and the animation is just immaculate. It's amazing.
And the ending's
it's an amazing
and the
movie.
Ending's brilliant. Yeah. And it's so good. It's really fun. Shout out to Caroline.
Shout out Caroline, for real. I gave it a 5 out of 5.
I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Whoa, skimping on the stars.
Skimping on the stars.
Skimping on the half stars.
Skimping on the half stars. Oh my gosh, you watched 3 more short films.
I'm so sorry. I watched Jack Stober's Help. It's also very fun and good, and he made it with his left hand, which is pretty cool.
Shout out to Jack Stober's left hand.
Shout out to his left hand. I also watched a short film called When the Light Light's Lead, The Shadows Follow, which was about trans identity. I had never seen a short film made by like a trans director, which is probably a bad thing, but something I have now
I feel like
remedied.
that can't be true.
I don't know. Like, I probably have, but like, I don't know. This one's specifically about being trans, so I don't know. It felt like something I hadn't seen before. And it was cool. It's a bit too literal. Like, it's a very, like, blunt film.
You ever watched a Wachowski short film?
I have not watched a Wachowski short film, sadly. That would be way cool. No, I should do that. But yeah, it's a very literal piece, which I didn't like as much, but like stylistically and I don't know, cinematically, it feels very well thought out and raw. So it was cool.
Yeah, I think that happens whenever you get kind of like a minority, like finally able to kind of make films consistently. The first kind of films like you get just kind of from that
pushing
are very much finally. Like, here is the thing.
Yeah.
Which is okay, you know.
Yeah, don't mince words.
Short films are always like that.
I was about to say, especially in short films, like you don't have as much time to be as subtle as you maybe want to be.
So yeah, I don't think that I obviously I didn't watch the film, but I don't think that's usually a big issue in short films.
Yeah, it's a very raw feeling movie, obviously made for a very low budget. So I don't hold it against it or anything. I generally enjoyed it. It's called When the Lights Lead, the Shadows Follow. It was cool.
Nice.
I liked it. Then I watched The Lift. It was Robert Zemeckis' student film about a guy and an elevator.
Oh boy.
And he's living his modern life with his automatic shoe shiners and his automatic toasters. And he's living the automated lifestyle back in the 70s.
Whoa.
And it was fine. I don't know. I watched it more out of curiosity. I'm like, what would a Robert Zemeckis student film look like? And it was cool. I don't know. It's fine. Whatever. I said neat. That was my review. Just neat.
Robbie says neat.
I said neato, man. But yeah, that's what I watched.
Then on the 30th... I watched, because Coraline, like I said, is like the Halloween movie for me.
The Halloween.
So like it's getting kind of close to spooky season.
Wow.
Vaguely. We're at the end of August. It was about to be September.
I guess like after all, why not?
Like tangentially related to fall. It's down there towards the end.
It's somewhere in there.
We've got a kind of early fall in September this year. So, you know. I thought, why not start watching only horror and spooky movies?
I mean, in reality, I should sprinkle in more horror in my film diet.
Well, that's the thing.
But I always want to like hold it off.
That's why I started early, because there's a lot of horror I want to get to. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I might as well just start getting through it.
Yeah.
And on the 30th, I watched Prom Night, a 1980s horror film starring Jamie Lee Curtis.
Can't believe they turned that movie from Scream into a real movie. That's crazy.
And Prom Night, I'd heard a lot about it from various people. I knew some people who hated it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have like a great average in general, but it looked really interesting. Like the stills and the trailer and everything. I was like, wow, that looks interesting.
Got a cool poster.
And I like slashers a lot. So I was like, yeah, I gotta check that out. And you know, I do not think it's as bad as its reputation holds it to. I think it was pretty fun. The biggest issue with the movie in general is that it doesn't like want to be a horror movie for most of it. I think like it's way too preoccupied on like everything else. The killer does not kill somebody again for the first hour of this hour and a half movie. When it finally gets to like the ending, I think the ending is really awesome, and in general I think the movie looks amazing and feels amazing to be in. The cast does a really great job of selling everything for it. I think it's a very like classical slasher feeling plot while not feeling like it's ripping anything off.
Yeah, which is tough to do.
Yeah. And, like, there's, like, a 5-minute disco scene.
You said it was almost more disco than horror.
Well, that was a joke. In my review, I put almost more disco than horror, because it definitely almost feels that way when you're watching it.
It looks very, like, flashy and poppy,
It is very flashy and poppy. It's very in your face. This is the disco era of slashers. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Disco era of
That's slashers. Right. Jamie Lee Curtis is literally out there doing disco for so much of the movie.
That alone will sell me on watching it.
So yeah, it's kind of neat. I kind of enjoyed it. I give it a 3 out of 5.
All right. Yeah. On the 31st, I sat down and watched a little movie called The Terminator.
Whoa, I've never heard of that.
It's another James Cameron movie.
Boo.
Jimmy
Pick
Boy.
a different director.
Jim Boy was making...
Jimmy.
He was making a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was cool, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's the Terminator. I don't know how many people who listen to this episode, who listen to this podcast, have seen the Terminator. Probably a lot. But it was cool. I'd never seen it before. It's very moody, which is cool, and it's beautiful. It looks amazing. Even though it had a relatively small budget for a big shoot 'em up, big explosion laser robot movie.
Yeah.
It's $6.4 million, which is insane. But again, he made Xenogenesis half in his living room. So,
yeah.
James Cameron, I love him. This is one of his best finales, as hard as that is to believe. I don't know. I thought that was crazy. I'm like, how did he do this?
Better than the Way of Water finale? I don't think
Maybe,
so.
dude. Maybe?
I don't know. No.
Probably not, but maybe. The fact that I have to think about it is a testament to how great the finale is. It's kind of boring, overall. It just kind of drags sometimes. But, the vibes are there. The finale's great. The effects are cool. The cast is fun. I had a great time. I'd pop it in any time,
There you go.
It's another Jim Cameron classic.
Pop it in anytime.
I gave it a 4 out of 5. Great movie.
Nice.
Yep,
On the 31st, I watched Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2.
I love that it rhymes a little bit.
I think that's literally the only reason it's a prom night movie, is to where they could make it rhyme. Because this is the very confusing and weird sequel to Prom Night.
Tangentially connected to Prom Night.
It has nothing to do with the first Prom Night. Literally absolutely nothing to do with the first Prom Night. It's not set at the same school. None of the characters reference any of the other characters.
That's so funny.
It's set in a different time, different place. And it just also is it's not even a traditional slasher. It's a supernatural slasher, which is also very different from the first Prom Night. So literally, I think they only made it Prom Night 2 to where they could say, Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2.
That's awesome.
But that's just a theory.
Well, they probably just wanted to attach it to a name. They probably just were shopping around the script.
Yeah,
and they were like, oh, we'll produce it if we can attach it to the Prom Night series.
Yeah. But anyway, and I didn't mention it before, but as you can imagine, Prom Night has some meh stuff in it, as 80s slashers does. It has some weird stuff with a red herring, mentally insane person, as old things do, which again, I had just come off of doing a big thing on mental illnesses in horror movies.
Whoa.
So that was kind of that gave me a little bit of a bad taste on the back end of that. But in Prom Night 2, Hello, Mary Lou, instead, they avoid that and instead hit up every other questionable thing in the tropes of slasher.
They're we're going to do all the other problematic tropes, actually.
They're all in here. But at the same time, this movie is just aggressively more fun and exciting than the first Prom Night. One of the big problems, again, with Prom Night is that it's just kind of slow and there's not many killings, and it's just kind of teenagers being let's disco. This one has a lot going on. It is essentially, literally, if you took Carrie, because the plot is almost exactly Carrie, and combined it with Nightmare on Elm Street in terms of a lot of its goofier effects and scenes and everything, which again is absolutely nothing like Prom Night, but it has some really crazy fun sequences. There's some really wild special effects to be in a weird low-budget sequel to Prom Night.
Yeah.
With no really well-known cast members. There's rocking horse that comes alive with moving eyes and a tongue, and
sounds cool to me.
People are getting absorbed into chalkboards, and their volleyball nets are turning into giant spider webs, and it's really there is some really fun, cool stuff in this, and the finale goes really hard. It's really insane and really fun, as you would expect from a Carrie riff. But yeah, at the same time, it's even more kind of bleh in a lot of its content. It's got a lot of questionable nudity in the film. Ugh. It was it's not great. And it's, in fact, its whole treatment of Mary Lou, its female character, is also not great. Its entire thing is like she's evil because she enjoys having sex, and like that's like the thing, which is always questionable to come from an 80s movie. And it's just got a lot of it's not one I would honestly at the end of the day end up suggesting Prom Night to someone before I would suggest Prom Night 2, despite Prom Night 2 objectively being more fun. It's just one that is objectively more coarse to get through.
I see.
But I gave it a 3.5. It is a wild, weird movie.
There you go. I was going to shout out our silent film special effects in the silent era panel that we went to at Dragon Con. I logged a couple of the short films that they screened during that.
Yeah, I was about to say, after this, we started Dragon Con. Yeah. But I actually wanted to shout out before you did that, actually.
Oh.
And this was a very disappointing thing. So I watched Prom Night, and then I watched Prom Night 2. And there are 4 Prom Night movies, and I was gonna watch them all. I was gonna go through. I was gonna binge all the Prom Night movies. It was gonna be cool. My Letterboxd recent activity was gonna be all 4 slots Prom Night.
That's the best reason to watch movies, Micah, to make a cool last 4 watch.
Technically, by all people's accounts, I watched the only 2 decent Prom Night movies, but I was gonna watch the other 2 to say I had seen all of them. And then for some reason, on the 1st of September, Prom Night 3 was gone.
Disappeared.
It was on Peacock Premium along with the others. And like, again, Prom Night 4 is still on there. But Prom Night 3 disappeared from Tubi, from Peacock, from Crackle.
They don't want you to win.
It just disappeared. And I think they knew, because I was watching through Prom Night 1 and 2, they were like, we can't let him watch 3. He's going to tear it to pieces. So they're cowards, and they should put out Prom Night 3 somewhere so I can finish the series.
There you go. Well, I mean, you could just buy it.
I'm not going to buy Prom Night 3. I wouldn't buy any of the other prom nights.
Fair enough.
But yeah, continue. Carry on.
Yeah, we went to a panel at Dragon Con. First night we were there. It was this guy and his slideshow. He was talking about special effects in the 30s.
Yeah.
And, pre-30s as well.
Yeah, lots of Millier, lots of fun stuff.
It was cool. Yeah, it was cool. Go to Dragon Con if you want to see something like that, I guess. Oh, yeah, we watched some short films.
Did you want to mention them?
I don't know, I guess. We watched... I don't honestly know how to pronounce this. I know it's French. I think it's Onzime
Clockmaker.
That sounds incorrect.
I don't know.
But yeah, it's Clockmaker one, and then we watched The Man with the Rubber Head, which is a Georges Méliès movie, which is pretty cool. I had never seen it before.
Yeah.
And then we watched Life of an American Fireman, or at least a version of it.
Yes.
And it was also cool.
Yeah, and we watched clips of a lot of other or short films. And technically, I think there's some short films you missed on there that we watched the full thing of.
Yeah.
Some stuff like we watched a clip from like Haxan, which was fun.
Yeah.
Seeing something like that, very special effects heavy. And it was a neat panel. Just thought I would give it a shout out.
Shout out
to that.
Shout out to Dragon Con.
Also at Dragon Con, while I was there, since I figured it's like never really streaming and I really like Blade Runner, I caught a screening that they were doing of Blade Runner Blackout 2022.
What? That's not a movie.
Which is an anime short film based in the Blade Runner universe.
Indeed it is.
And unfortunately, it kind of sucked.
Whoa. I actually hadn't heard what you thought about this.
And the reason it sucked is it just needed to be way longer. It looks beautiful. And there's a decent idea for a story here, but they literally have no time. It is constantly just here is this, then here's here's an action scene, and then this character, oh no, that character's dead, and then and then it's over. Literally, there's nothing satisfying about watching it other than the animation, which is absolutely gorgeous. It's a great looking thing, and it was a great kind of test. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first attempt of doing an anime Blade Runner thing.
Interesting. This was pre-Black Lotus?
Yes, it's pre-Black Lotus.
Cool.
And I was like, it looks phenomenal. But it really is just way too short to even be qualified as a story, in my opinion.
It's like an animation test.
It's just poorly paced from seeing literally it feels more like an animation test, which is just a shame because the characters that we do get for the 2 lines of dialogue that they have, I really wanted to see more of. I would love a movie of this. I would love like a 30-minute film of this, like something to actually let it breathe. But it is what it is.
Alas, I was at a panel, I think, while it was happening. But yeah,
we didn't watch anything else on the nights of Dragon Con. That was stuff at Dragon Con. We were way too tired and way too busy to watch movies.
I was not about to stay up late watching a movie after that.
But eventually, on the 4th, once Dragon Con was over, 4th of September, we wanted to continue on, and I wanted to watch another spooky movie. Again, there was no Prom Night 3 available, so instead I watched the thing that Prom Night 2 was riffing on that I had not seen yet, Carrie.
It's a Brian De Palma classic.
Mr. Brian De Palma. Regrettably, we have seen the 2013 Carrie.
Yeah.
Which is a very bad movie, in my opinion.
Not a great movie. Not even really that good of a movie.
It sucks, and it's boring. And I think that's an important piece of context, though, because it shows just how easily Carrie can be absolutely boring and a snooze fest.
And miserable.
Because Carrie is, on the whole, an unpleasant story.
I mentioned, literally, like, one of the first things I mentioned in my review is they somehow managed to make Carrie, which can very easily become, like, an exercise in misery, into a really interesting and actually, like, very pleasant film at times.
Yeah, like...
At times.
De Palma's Carrie is really impressive.
Oh, my goodness.
It's got some insane cinematography.
The camera work.
And for as much as you can be like, oh yeah, De Palma's got flashy cinematography, I think it actually does a significant amount of actual heavy lifting.
Oh, absolutely.
For the storytelling and atmosphere that this movie has going for it. Somehow, this movie was like unexpectedly really satisfying and engaging and visceral for me to watch, which... having known, like, you know, it's Carrie. I hadn't watched it before, but, like, everyone knows Carrie.
Yeah, everyone knows, like, the plot of Carrie.
It was not something, and I had seen the 2013 one. It wasn't something that I was expecting to, like, kind of hit me at all.
You seem very skeptical about, like, loving Brian De Palma's films in general, which is strange.
He's kind of a gross guy.
I mean, yeah, like, I don't like him as a person.
It comes through in this movie.
Yes.
If you watch this movie, I would suggest just fast forward and past those little opening credits. It literally adds nothing to the movie. Yeah. And it would benefit you greatly.
Yeah, I was about to say, outside of the strange voyeuristic high school opening of the movie, I fully endorse Carrie. It's a very well-made movie.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. I think the performance, especially from Sissy, I always forget how to say her last name.
Is it not Speck?
Speck? I don't know how to say her name.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. She's like an iconic horror actress.
Yeah.
But she practically carries this movie.
Carries?
If it despite the filmmaking, if this didn't have a performance as good as hers, the script is a little dumb from time to time. Yeah. So to have performances, you need really good performances to carry this kind of blunt and dumb of a script.
The thing is, it dodges so many of the, like, weird potholes that the 2013 one falls into. Like, the 2013 one focuses on, like, all of the really, like, miserable stuff about, like, the book Carrie.
Yeah.
And the De Palma one is a lot more like, I don't know, character focused. I think, like, it cares a lot more about Carrie.
Cares about
Carrie, and the craft carries the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a cool movie. I really admire how kinetic and emotionally gripping and, like, just visceral so much of the movie is. Like, literally every scene is shot in, like, the best way possible.
Yeah, and like I said, I think so much of the emotional tension comes from Sissy and Piper Laurie.
Yeah.
Their performances are extremely memorable.
And the finale.
The finale's great.
The finale is, like, the best thing to ever happen.
And it's not, like, my favorite kind of horror movie, quite frankly.
No.
But it still is really fun. I give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, like I said, literally just remove the weird pedophilic stuff towards the beginning, and I am all on board.
It's one of the weirdest things about I don't understand, and, like, some people I've seen have, like, no problem with stuff like this, and it weirds me out. Prom Night 2 is the same way.
Yeah,
it's like a high school film, and I'm okay with, like, a movie set in high school revolving around sex, because that is an inherent part of being a teenager.
I was about to say,
especially in a public
coming
school.
of age. Yeah,
yeah, that's just part of it. But like, it's this really weird thing where a lot of slashers specifically will have a lot of like, and they're not teenage actors or anything, but they'll have a lot of weird, like, again, very voyeuristic sexual content in them about high school characters.
I don't like it.
And it's just,
like it one bit.
like, does nobody else think that's a little off? Does nobody else question that a bit?
I was about to say, literally outside of that, I think Carrie would be like one of my favorite horror movies. Like that, it just sours it a little for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gave it a 5.
Yeah,
I think it's essentially like a perfectly well-made movie. Like, it's amazing. I like it honestly a little more than Mission Impossible, De Palma's other film.
Oh yeah, no, I like it more than Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
But Mission Impossible isn't like my favorite Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I just thought I would mention it. And then I watched on the 6th, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. It's like Terminator. It's like the Terminator, but awesome.
like the Terminator 2.
It's like the Terminator 2 Electric Boogaloo, because Arnold is back and he's awesome now.
He's awesome now.
I mean, he was awesome before, but now he's even more awesome.
They fly now, Robbie.
Exactly. I don't know, man. It's like, I mean, it's in the top 250 like highest rated films on Letterboxd for a reason. It's like dadcore classic. It's like literally the best dadcore movie ever. It's so cool. It's so fun. Like, the set pieces are amazing. The effects are amazing. The cast rocks. It's just, it's amazing. It's an amazing movie from an amazing director. Jim Cameron, you have my heart. Yeah. T2, very good movie. That's my controversial opinion. I gave it a 5 out of 5. And also,
well, I was gonna interject.
Oh yeah, right.
On the 6th, that's what I was.
We were watching these like perpendicular.
Yeah,
You were watching one upstairs. I was watching something downstairs.
As above, so below.
What?
That's the movie I watched.
That's the name of the movie. That's crazy.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I wanted to watch a horror movie again, and I was looking around, and everyone lied to me and said that this was a spooky season movie, and nothing about it is spooky season besides the fact that it is a horror movie.
It looks scary. It does not.
Yeah, it is scary, but it is certainly not spooky. Nothing about this is Halloween in the slightest.
Well, there are skulls. That's kind of Halloween-y.
It's like, yeah, if you qualify Halloween-y as going into the catacombs in France.
Well, not like French skulls. That's not very
French
spooky.
skulls aren't spooky, guys. But yeah, this is a one thing I did not know going into this is a found footage film. Somehow I missed that when that seems to be a key element of it.
I didn't know that at all, honestly, which is so crazy.
It's my girlfriend really loves this movie. She was like, "Oh yeah, it's really great. You gotta watch that.
You gotta watch it."
And like, nobody told me A, it was found footage, which I love found footage horror, and B, that it's about like archaeology and like treasure hunting, and like B, that it revolves a lot of like mythology, and they crawl through the gate of hell underground, like the physical mythological depth gate of hell. It's so cool. This movie is hard to talk about.
More movies should do that.
I feel like I keep saying this because I have like these weird, like kind of okay, kind of really good, but meh, movies. And this one's really weird to talk about because in certain ways, I think this movie is super sick. I think it pulls off found footage horror in a really, really great way. In fact, it pulls off found footage in a really great way. It looks good, which is hard to pull off in a found footage thing. It's got a lot of really subtle, intentional framing, which always like keeps it really engaging and fun. It's got good pacing, and when the actual horror stuff starts, I think it uses it really effectively. For being especially a low budget film, there's some really fun effects, which of course they can get around with more using found footage. And it doesn't have the ability to take it as far as you want it to, but you can feel them like reaching for it, which is really fun because it gets kind of like really out there by the end, and I really wish they had the ability to just take it further and further as they again crawl into hell. And like, I don't know, it's really, really cool. They actually shot it in the catacombs in France, which is crazy.
Hopefully with permission.
Yes, with permission. they would not have been able to do that
Right.
without permission. But that's really cool. The cast really sells it. But really the big thing, and I think it's got to just be a budget issue from how low budget the film was and how tight of a schedule they were on, since they were filming in the actual catacombs.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be a budget thing, because it just is, at the end of the day, kind of disappointing. Like it hits more so than I thought it would going into it on some of the horror elements. There are some really fun and wacky effects. But like the story itself just is kind of underwhelming. There are things seemingly just introduced and dropped, even though it seems like a natural thing you could have worked into the story.
Yeah.
And like literally the actual ending itself just seems like, they made it out. Whoopsie. And
That's
it
so
just kind of
crazy.
ends. Like it's not very emotionally satisfying, I feel. Even though there is an emotional payoff by the end of the movie for our characters, I feel like it's just like clearly feels to me and other reviews I've read as not what the film could have been, or even was like originally trying to be, especially with a lot of the dropped elements. So who knows? That's all speculation. I tried doing some research
It's
into the
pure
production,
speculation.
and I couldn't really find anything. So who knows? Maybe they just wrote it like this, and they wrote kind of an unsatisfying movie. But I feel like they were like inches away from making
the
like one of the coolest. Yeah.
The trajectory of the story is like, oh, it's gonna be like that, and then it just doesn't.
Yeah, and then exactly. Especially with, again, a lot of things that are introduced early on and then just kind of don't go anywhere. But yeah, still really cool movie. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm still really excited to watch it. I'm a little sad that I didn't watch it like with you, but I was too busy watching another James Cameron movie. Or rather, a James Cameron documentary. Whoa, he directed a documentary called Aliens of the Deep, and I watched it. And I was becoming sick with the virus that I am now coming off of being sick from at this point. So I was sitting there with my stuffy nose, and I was watching all these weird fish and James Cameron talking about how cool his little diving pod was. And it was fine. I don't know. I don't know what I expected from this. But yeah, I said it's pretty boring from a cinematic perspective in my review, but it's kind of charming. Like, it's just all of these, like, scientists who are like, dude, these, like, ocean worms are so cool. Look at how they're eating the ocean algae. And I'm like, yeah, guys, you go. So yeah, it was cool. It was kind of boring, but like I was vibing with it. I can't get mad at something that's like this cool of a nature documentary. Like,
Yeah.
Ocean animals are so cool already. You have to be like actively making a bad documentary for it to be completely boring.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, this is cinematically uninteresting, but like there's a Dumbo octopus and he's flapping around his little goofy tentacle ear things. So it was fun. Good sick day watch. I gave it a 2 out of 5 for Aliens of the Deep.
Then on the 7th, I rewatched yet again The Cabin in the Woods.
Was this your third time watching it?
I think so.
Oh.
No, my 4th time watching it.
Whoa, you weren't kidding yet again.
Yeah, because I watched it for the first time, like, I think this year, early this year.
Shoot, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Cabin in the Woods.
And it's not even, like, one of my favorite...
Right,
It's
like-
got a lot of things I don't like about the film, but it's just inadvertently, like, I watched it by myself the first time.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
oh, that's pretty fun. Then I watched it with my mom, who wanted to see it.
Wow.
Then I watched it with you, who wanted to see
Yeah.
it. And now I was watching it with Haley, who wanted to see it. So I
Wait,
got
Haley hadn't seen it?
No, Haley
That's
hadn't seen
crazy.
it. Which, yeah, that was my
Yeah, it
reaction.
seems very like something she would have seen.
So we watched it on Discord. Shout out to Discord.
The ideal viewing. Of every
Exactly.
movie.
And she thought it was weird.
It
Which
is
it is weird. She's the kind of movie viewer though who like needs to watch something with a mystery twice because she spends the first time being like, what's happening? Like,
Yeah.
where is this going? And doesn't often like take the time to enjoy the movie while it's happening if she doesn't fully understand where everything is going. So I feel like on a rewatch she would enjoy it more, but she didn't not enjoy it. She just thought it was kind of weird.
It's funny because I do this thing when I watch like mystery movies where I just like like completely tune out the mystery. And I'm like, it's just vibes. I have to watch the vibes.
Yeah, but on repeated viewings of The Cabin in the Woods, it becomes more apparent a lot of its weird flaws and annoying dialogue sometimes, and like just weird there's a lot of weird things that go on in The Cabin in the Woods.
It's a cool movie, but like its Whedonisms make me kind of hate it. Like thinking back on it, I'm always like, ugh.
That's the thing. Like the more times that I've watched it, the more you can kind of ignore. Like this is very much like a watch with friends during spooky season kind of movie.
It is.
So like the more I've watched it, again, showing it to 3 different people separately at this point, the more I've kind of gotten it, like, you know, to really enjoy what it's doing.
That's good.
I think it's really fun. It's not my favorite of anything by any means, but I think it's relatively memorable, pretty engaging, and has some decently fun horror things. I still think it picks the lamest possible of any of its monsters to have as its main attack, but whatever.
Dude, that movie frustrates me. I don't know why. We could do a whole episode on Cabin in the Woods.
We probably could.
Drew Goddard.
Weird director.
I
give it a 4 out of 5.
Very cool. Very cool. On the 8th, I sat down and watched a Hitchcock movie that I hadn't seen before.
Whoa.
Which seems crazy because I've watched like 20-something Hitchcock movies. And I still haven't even seen half of his work. But I watched Shadow of a Doubt, which is one of his 40s films. And it was very well shot, which all of Hitchcock's 40s films are. Uses light really well. It's got some great lead performances. It's like kind of an outlier amongst some of his plot lines. It like literally just centers around like a family and like their estranged uncle who comes to visit. So it was cool. I don't know. It has a lot of good subtext. Like it's a solid screenplay. It's got a great cast. It looks great. Feels great. But it just ends up being kind of like strangely paced, so it ends up being a little boring sometimes.
Yeah.
But like literally that's the only problem I have with it. It's moody, it's cool. I liked it. Shadow of a Doubt. I give it a 4 out of 5.
Nice. On the 8th, I watched Nosferatu the Vampire.
The Vampire.
1979
it's
one.
Good that they specified that Nosferatu was a vampire.
Well, I feel like they did that to like move away from just calling it Nosferatu.
They didn't want people to be like, this is like Nosferatu.
Yeah,
the movie Nosferatu.
So yeah, like I think here we go. See the original title in German is Nosferatu Phantom der Nacht.
So probably like Phantom of the Night.
Yeah,
or
Phantom
something.
of the Night is I think what that would translate to.
Yeah.
But in here, in English, we got Nosferatu the Vampire.
Much more boring.
Werner Herzog film. This is my second Werner Herzog film.
What?
And I found that German filmmakers are very cool.
The German filmmakers are always doing something interesting, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, I really loved Lessons of Darkness, if you've heard me talk about that. But it's one of his documentaries.
Hey.
And I had only seen his documentaries. And now I get to see one of his actual narrative films, and also Dracula is one of my favorite books ever, and combine a really, really, really good documentary director and Dracula, and it turns out you get like the coolest movie in the world, very much made for me. I think this movie is incredible. I think it's such a great exercise in like atmospheric storytelling. So many of the things that Herzog flourishes in his documentaries is absolutely used to really interesting thematic effect in this. It allows it to explore so much more than a lot of adaptations I've seen of Dracula actually allow themselves to. They're very like, oh, it's Dracula. Ooh.
I was about to say they tend a lot of adaptations of Dracula tend to get caught up in just like the broad trappings of the story of Dracula, and not like the nitty-gritty.
I was about to say
stuff.
this really kind of, because Dracula is really hard to adapt into a movie if you're doing beat for beat from the book, which this kind of is. So instead it kind of ignores a lot of the actual meat of the plot, and is more like, ooh, atmosphere. And what it effectively does is it taps into like the thematic stuff behind Dracula, like the context of the book that it was written behind, a lot of the stuff with the bubonic plague and a lot of the fears behind that.
Which is very cool.
And it ties that into kind of the main themes of the movie and gives it such an interesting, like, existential and slow dread like so much of the film's horror is not actually revolving around Nosferatu himself, as he is like, you know, he doesn't really do much. He's
just he's just an old guy who lives
like,
somewhere.
He's an old guy and he wants to drink some people's blood, and that's about it.
He's just kind of doing his own thing.
He wants Jonathan's wife, and that's about all that he's up to.
He's like, I want to steal your wife.
And so much of the actual film's narrative and really interesting thematic things that it's doing is delivered in kind of the subtext of what he kind of like what Dracula represents for the story.
Cool.
And it really explores really interesting stuff. I cannot recommend it enough. Nosferatu the Vampire, I give it a 5 out of 5.
I always thought that, like, because I didn't know anything about, like, the book Dracula. I only knew, like, the broad strokes cartoon-ish kind of version of Dracula.
Robbie only knew Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah, Hotel Transylvania was my main Dracula source. So, the more I hear about the book and, like, the historical context of the story of Dracula, it's very intriguing to me.
It's one of my favorite
books. I need
books.
to read it, and I need to
cool.
watch this.
Yes,
because it looks
you do
cool.
need to do both of those things.
Yeah. And then on the 10th, we put my movie subscription to good use.
Yeah.
And we watched Angst.
Angst, which is not angst like angst. It's angst as in the German word for fear.
Yeah. It's an Austrian movie, which is
Austrian
cool.
horror movie.
Yeah.
A very interesting movie. I keep saying that. It's
like it was interesting.
a very weird one to talk about. Again, keep saying that, mainly because of kind of the context of the film. It's based on a true story, which is kind of a big,
not realize.
Yeah, it's a big tagline of it, and we usually try to avoid like based on a true story like horror movies and stuff, because I don't know, true crime, and we could get into a whole thing about true crime.
We've ranted about
that before.
Exploitative.
It's very
terrible.
Exploitative and often not very great, but this is a very interesting take on true crime, to be sure.
It's a very disturbing movie, and it's a very gross movie. But like, I don't know, it feels a lot more well-intentioned and well thought through when it comes to true crime than a lot of other ones I've seen.
Yeah, which is very odd to say about it, because essentially what it is it follows a real-life mass murderer.
Yes.
And it follows his story from his POV. Like he is the main character.
It's a very subjective
You follow
movie.
him. He monologues to you the whole time.
There's like 2 lines of spoken dialogue in the movie. And again, most of it's just voiceover.
And again, a very interesting detail is most of the monologues are directly from the actual killer's, like, essentially memoirs. And everything. So it's very odd, and it's very gross.
It's a very gross
and
movie,
it was banned in most of Europe when it came out. Which doesn't surprise me.
No, it doesn't surprise
Especially
me.
this was in 83, and this was a very, like, it's not aggressively graphic inherently, except for, like, a couple scenes.
There's a fair amount of, like, blood and guts, but, like, honestly, it's not, for a majority of the movie, it's, like, almost nothing.
And it's the realism of the film. Like, it takes such a grounded route to having a mass murderer portrayed, both in his, like, actual personality as again, it grabs so much from the actual person's words, and like the actual filmmaking style of horror it's doing. The kills aren't flashy. They're not
exactly. Yeah, it doesn't really glorify any of its more violent and exploitative things that it might contain.
Yeah, I was about to say, instead it makes you sit with them in a very disturbing, almost, again, kind of sad.
It feels sad. It's a sad movie to watch, which is so strange.
Yeah,
to me,
it's very odd the way it kind of weaves what it's doing and making him as a character, like the killer as a character, like almost sympathetic in a weird light. Not like sympathetic.
Not quite.
Not like sympathetic. His actions were terrible.
And the film acknowledges
And the film very much acknowledges that. He is a monster in the film.
Yes.
And very, very much so portrayed by the actor. But they do a very interesting thing where they, like, get you to feel bad about the fact that he is a monster.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's a really brilliant use of, like, cinematic perspective. Like, the whole thing plays with perspective and subjectiveness in a really interesting way, which, again, without really, like, glorifying all of the horrific things that happen in the movie.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, very cool.
Scary.
Very scary. and it's good.
Shout out to Erwin Leder.
Oh yeah,
because his performance is like, just incredible.
Yeah, he's like laying down some like all-timer stuff.
Yeah,
here, man.
His physicality,
insane,
his facial expressions. Again, there's not much actual spoken dialogue in this movie, so he is and he is the main character. He's carrying this film on his shoulders. The camera very rarely isn't showing him.
Yeah, there's like only a few other people in the movie.
And literally the second most screen-timed character is a dachshund.
Little dachshund named Kuba.
His name is Kuba. And it was the cinematographer's dachshund. And
he's the best part of the movie.
He's so cute. He literally... And I can't find any confirmation. I do not think this dachshund was in the real story. I think the cinematographer wanted his dachshund to be in the movie.
It's the cutest little dachshund.
It's so funny.
He's so cute.
And I'm so glad he's in there because it would be way too miserable to watch if it wasn't for this dachshund.
We were cheering on the dachshund.
And the dachshund adds some tension because you're really worried that he's going to kill the dachshund for most of the movie. But this dachshund, I kid you not, just follows him around.
Literally just follows him.
He hardly barks at him, and literally the entire time he's broken into this house, he follows him around. Then when he leaves the house and gets in a car, the dachshund follows him into the car and just rides in the passenger seat. It's so funny.
Dude, literally the last thing that happens in the movie is he feeds the dachshund a little sausage link, and he's just like munching on it, and then the police pull up.
Yeah, like that's he is the second main character of the movie, weird. Which is really funny. And again, I couldn't find any really confirmation that he was like a real thing, like that the killer had a real like dachshund.
Yeah, like
with
just
him.
Picked up a dachshund. Like
so, I think it was literally just a decision, which I think is actually kind of good for the movie for sure. It adds some relief. And yet some also like added tension in different ways.
No, I again, angst wouldn't normally be my bag, just from its true criminess. But again, I think this is one of the better executions of that little niche of film.
Yeah. So. I gave it a 5 out of 5.
I also gave it a 5 out of 5.
I think it's
the 5 out of 5.
I think it's a pretty much perfect execution of a film like this.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's the best it can be, honestly. Then I watched Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared 4, just on a whim. And I'm scared of the internet again. Because I got digital style, baby.
Digital style.
Someone mentioned that, like, the internet has kind of devolved into, like, 3 big websites. And now it's literally like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared 4. Because you have the line graph, digital style, and digital dancing. Those are your only options.
Those are your only options. That's funny.
But yeah, 4 is the one I find myself revisiting the most out of the series, and it's very good. Nice. I like it.
Then on the 10th, we headed back out to the theater for the first time in a while.
It's the last one, guys.
Since Coraline.
Hang on.
And we went out and watched the new hit film Bottoms.
Yeah.
Super excited for this film. I'm a big Rachel Sennett fan.
Yeah.
And
Rachel Sennett.
Sorry. For some reason I was thinking of sonnet. Like the poetry thing.
I was about to say like Rachel Shakespeare over here.
Right? I don't know why I got that. I wasn't actually looking at her spelling of her name. But anyway, I was super excited for this film for a while. I was super glad that it was playing just at the closest AMC to us. Yeah. So we were able to easily go and catch it.
Yeah, dude. I wrote like a rave review on my Letterboxd earlier today for this. It's just like a wholly engrossing comedy, which
it's so good.
When I find a comedy like that, this is literally just me. Like I'm not gonna like claim that it's some masterpiece or something. I do think it's a really well made movie, but like when I find a comedy that literally just like holds me 100% for the entire time, I'm like, yeah. That's a 5 to me.
Like I said,
it's so funny.
Or rather like you originated. It's very much like a modern day 21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
In terms of like the style of comedy it's doing. Yeah. And I think it falls into a lot of the pitfalls of 21 Jump Street. I think those are like its only few flaws. The same kind of flaws that come with 21 Jump Street in terms of like when it actually, like when the plot hits. It kind of is weird.
It kind of just like trips on its own feet, you know?
Yeah.
Trying to put in like a good emotional plot while also having time to put jokes in there.
Yeah, and it kind of drops out of being as funny as it is for a bit, and it kind of feels out of place for the very like surprising to me, like over the top, goofy and abstract world that the film takes place in.
I am eating up like all of the like crazy choices in the design.
Love it so much.
And like just the rules of the world. It's so great.
Like the murder stuff is really fun. And Jeff.
Yes.
And we have to talk about the performances. All of the leads are incredible.
Rachel, Io, Ruby, like they're literally
and this is
those main three people are literally like enough to carry me through the whole movie. And the rest of the cast is amazing too.
The three of them are so incredible and have such great chemistry. And this was like Ruby's first movie.
Ruby Cruz,
and I cannot wait for her to be in more.
She is like a highlight here. Yeah, she's amazing.
Which is crazy because I was easily expecting, like going into this, I was expecting Rachel Sennett to be like the thing that I was here for, because I really love her in everything else I've seen her in.
I've loved her in everything I've seen her in. I was expecting for her to be like my anchor through the movie,
and she is really fantastic in this, but she's not even the thing, like,
right?
Arguably, did you say her, like
Io?
Io is how you say it? Yeah, Io and Ruby are arguably like the comedic leads of the movie, practically.
Right.
They are so good, and all three of their chemistry is insane. But on top of the three of them being really great, really fun, well fleshed out characters for a comedy with interesting dynamics, literally every single side character in this, and again, like there aren't that many side characters with actual speaking parts, but every single side character in this is super memorable. They're giving really interesting performances. They have some kind of funny bit that they've brought, usually a fun visual gag. There are so many good visual gags in this movie.
Oh my goodness.
Which isn't very often in like movies like this.
I have to mention Toby Nichols' goth kid performance. Literally every single bit
good.
Is so funny.
That's it. It's the last straw.
I wasn't gonna do it, but now that was the last straw.
Dude, and another shout out for Miles Fowler. He is such a fun antagonist, and this was his first movie, and his physicality and his performance is so much fun.
Miles Fowler literally is chewing the scenery so hard.
Exactly.
Literally, he's like the funniest thing, I swear.
Yeah, and like the two actresses who played Isabel and Brittany, they're really fun. They've got their own thing going.
Yeah,
just like literally everything works so well in this.
You could literally show me like probably any just like one joke from Bottoms, and I would be like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen in
Mr.
my life.
G.
Yes.
Mr. G.
Dude. I saw a couple of my friends say that Marshawn Lynch deserves like a best supporting actor nom
funny.
for this.
He's
and
so
I'm like,
funny in
he
this.
He really is like a standout in this.
Yeah.
It's so great. But like everyone's great.
Literally everyone in this is great. I think it's like, again, I put in my review kind of as a joke, but I legitimately believe it to be true. Like this has got, like, I was like, sorry, Barbie, this literally is like got the ensemble for a comedy of the year.
Oh my goodness.
Obviously Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie are really great.
Yeah.
But like not a lot of the other cast in Barbie, in my opinion, are super standouts.
They're not doing, like, they're great, I think, but like they're not
that memorable.
Yeah, they're not like all-time performances.
They're all good performances, but they're not like, I'm not like, yes, I remember that character or anything. Like all of these characters, literally, all of these performances are fantastic.
Micah and we were looking at the poster.
Every single person on the poster is giving like the greatest performance.
Literally everyone on the poster is like the funniest character ever written.
Literally.
But yeah, dude.
I think the film's got a really great message. I think it conveys it in a surprisingly tactful way. Like it doesn't do like the Mean Girls thing where it inherently ties its weird emotional core into its comedy in like a kind of sloppy way that makes the comedy feel kind of weird by the end.
Yeah, Mean Girls is a very strange movie in its finale.
Yeah, it doesn't do that. So instead, by the end, you still got your full stupid comedy jokes, and the finale of this is incredible. I loved it. And it was funny too because we were in a pretty, like, the theater wasn't super full, but like we were loud. It was a loud, like people were cheering consistently.
Yes.
So much laughter in the theater. If you're okay with what's in the movie, because it is, it's a rated R
It's an
comedy.
R-rated
It's got quite a bit of
comedy,
language, and that's, it's got some violence. That's really about it. You should go watch this in theaters to support
goodness,
it.
dude.
It's so much fun.
It's got such a wonderful like frenzy to it that I can't get enough of. It's so amazing. I would take like 10 more movies like this.
I couldn't feel justified in giving it the 5 out of 5.
No, it's not a perfect movie.
It's not a perfect movie, and it didn't like give it enough juice for me to even be like, yeah, I'll give it the 5 anyway. But it is genuinely one of my favorite comedies I've seen in a while. Yeah,
I did not look up how to pronounce the director's name, but Emma Seligman, I assume is how you would say that.
Seligman? Yeah, I guess that's how I would go with that.
Her screenplay, along with Rachel Sennott. I keep wanting to pronounce it like it's French. It's not French.
Yes.
Rachel Sennott. Their screenplay is like amazing. I don't know how you would write something like this.
Like I said, I think it's got some sloppy things in its structure.
Yeah.
But like, what comedy doesn't?
I said, I almost said it was the best movie of the year, but Oppenheimer came out this year, so I can't in good conscience
it
say
made my top 5. It's not
easily,
not higher than my top 5, but it is in my top 5 easily.
I will say though that it is my favorite movie of the year so far. So yeah, it literally was just like 90 minutes of pure joy. I ate it up.
I had a smile on my face the entire time. It was great.
But yeah, that's what we watched. I did not expect this to go a full hour and a half, but it has now.
Yeah, there was interesting things to talk about.
It's too late. You can't even do anything about it now.
It's all over.
I mean, if you're hearing this now, I guess you could have just fast forwarded to the end.
It's true.
But what's the point of that?
Yeah, that'd be kind of lame. You shouldn't do that.
We're like ragging on like this made up person who would click on this episode.
It's like social media, Robbie.
Yeah, we'll just make up people to be mad about, I think.
It's the greatest American pastime.
But yeah, this was recently logged. Go watch a cool movie. If you're up for an R-rated comedy, go watch Bottoms.
Yeah,
I think it's awesome.
Go watch it in theaters while it's in theaters.
It's so funny. Oh my goodness. T2 is great. Go watch a Cameron movie. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Caroline, if you will.
Go watch Coraline. Go watch Nosferatu the Vampire.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would like suggest Angst to somebody.
No.
That's a cool movie.
Watch at your own discretion for a lot of these.
Yeah.
But yeah, Angst especially.
Yeah, it's a very disturbing movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully next week
in.
we'll be back with like a normal episode.
Yeah. But we'll see you guys then.
Bye.
Why did we harmonize? I guess I don't know. It was too similar of a tone.